Okay, I got a ton of requests from you guys to fact check the sugar diet. Happy to do it. Only one problem. I have no idea what that is. So I looked it up. It looks like it's this fellow, Mark Bell, who's been talking about it.
The sugar diet. It is what it sounds. You're primarily eating sugar throughout the day.
Okay, first question. When you hear people on the internet say sugar, you want to ask, what are they actually talking about? Because sometimes on social media, people call every carbohydrate sugar. So an apple is sugar, quinoa is sugar, donut is sugar, but those are like completely different universes nutritionally and health-wise. So what does he actually mean by sugar?
One thing that's unique about this diet that makes it a little bit novel and a little bit new-ish to most people. There are some people that have been practicing this kind of around the globe. They're sick, fat, and nearly dead, talking about smoothies and so forth, and carbohydrates and blasting carbs and keeping your fats low and so forth.
So it sounds like it's a high-carb, low-fat diet. Those have been around for a while, for a long time, actually.
But on this plan, you're not only going to keep the fats low, you're also going to keep the protein more modest. And I wouldn't say low, I would just say modest. For myself, it's basically half my body weight. So I have 100, maybe all the way upwards of 150 grams a day. But I weigh
That's pretty substantial. 100 to 150 grams of protein a day. I wouldn't even call that modest. Some people eat more, but that's pretty substantial.
as of today, weighed 209 for the first time. So this diet is really working for me. Those of you who don't know, I used to be 330 pounds.
So 209, that's pounds. That's like 90 something, 95 maybe kilos. Check my math. So he said 100 to 150 grams of protein. So that's about 1.1 to 1.5, I think, if I'm getting this right, grams of protein per kilo body weight. 1.6 is around where we see muscle growth, hypertrophy plateau, so kind of where it gets maximized. So, yeah, some people eat more, like bodybuilders get even more. For weight loss, sometimes there are some very high protein diets, but 1.1 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilo body weight, that's pretty substantial.
Lost weight with keto type methods, and really more so low carb than anything else. Messed around with some carnivore stuff, but not a crazy amount of carnivore. I've always liked it. I appreciate it. I was meat-based is what I decided to land on, and I started eating meat and fruit. Anyway, this diet helped me to realize that one of the reasons why I was stalling, one of the reasons why a lot of other people were failing, obviously there's a calorie thing in there. But what's unique about the sugar diet is you get to eat more food. Sorry, I'm walking around in a circle here at my home gym, and I might be out of breath because I just got done doing farmer's carries and a bunch of other stuff. What makes this unique is you're not really in a caloric deficit. Now, I know by definition, when you lose weight, you're in a caloric deficit. But what's happening is that your metabolism revs up, and it revs up to meet that level and even exceed the level of food that you're eating.
Okay, metabolism revs up on a high carb, low fat diet. There's actually a lot of measurements of this, a lot of research. Kevin Hall has done a lot of work on this. He has a meta-analysis where he looks at trials that varied carb and fat amount while keeping the calories and the protein constant. So this is a meta-analysis that looked at 32 trials, and all the food was provided to the participants. So there's a lot of rigor, a lot of control. The carbs ranged from 1 to 83% of calories. Fat ranged from 4 to 84% of calories. So massive range, massive spectrum. And yeah, isocaloric, isonitrogenous, so protein is constant, which is really important. And so basically the energy expenditure, this is essentially the calories that you're burning, were a little bit higher on the low-fat, high-carb diet, 26 calories a day. And they lost a little bit more body fat, 16 grams a day more body fat lost on the low-fat, high-carb diet compared to low-carb, high-fat. But these are tiny differences. In fact, the authors say that the effect sizes are so small as to be physiologically meaningless. So it's technically true that on a higher carb diet, your body burns more calories, but the difference is so small, I don't think this makes much of a difference for weight loss. A stronger factor is satiety. If you're someone who is satiated on a high carb, low fat diet, some people are and some people are not. But if that's you, then that's going to help you feel satiated with fewer calories and not go overboard. This is especially true if we're talking about whole foods, whole carbs like whole grains or legumes or fruits and vegetables, that type of thing. Also, caloric density. He was saying he can eat more food. Yeah, that can happen because, as we all know, there's fewer calories in the same mass, the same amount of grams of carb than fat. So 1 gram of carbs, 4 kilocalories. 1 gram of a fat, 9 kilocalories. So fat is more calorie dense for the same mass.
This diet, the sugar diet, people may not realize this, but there's been people who've been studying this for a long time using unconventional ways to heal people from things like diabetes. The rice diet, I think, was even done maybe back in like the 50s or something like that to help with people for diabetes.
Yeah, Walter Kempner, the white rice diet. I think it was 1960s. I could be wrong. Yeah, he took people with morbid obesity who had malignant hypertension, who were losing their vision. These people were all messed up. And he put them on a diet that was mostly white rice, a little bit of fruit juice, some refined added sugar, so table sugar, white sugar. So it was like 95% carbs, protein in the single digits, and a lot of the carbs were refined. And not super surprising in my opinion that these folks lost a lot of weight very fast. Their blood pressure came down a lot. The ones that had diabetes, most of them, their metrics improved because it's really hard to eat 3,000 or 4,000 calories a day of rice consistently. So you're going to underconsume and you're going to lose weight. So yeah, obviously a crash diet, nobody would recommend that nowadays. Certainly not long term. There's a lot of ways out there to lose weight and a number of ways to lose weight in a healthy way.
There's a whole lot of reasons why that might be. FGF21 is supposedly at the helm, kind of running the show and helping the body to rev up the metabolism. You can Google that, you can look it up, you can...
FGF21, FGF stands for fibroblast growth factor. Yeah, there's research showing that it goes up with carb intake with higher carb diets. Most of the research is in lab animals and rodents and things like that. I've seen in humans that it can go up, the levels of expression can go up with carb intake, but I don't know if it's been shown to increase metabolic rate or any of these things, if the mechanism is clear in the humans or not.
But what's interesting again about the sugar diet, what makes it different is it's hard to look up shit on the sugar diet. It's hard to look up stuff on high carb.
Yeah, there's quite a few guys talking about this, more kind of old school. So there's Dr. Ornish and Esselstyn and Barnard and McDougall. He passed away, but all those other folks are still around and still kind of promoting very high carb, low fat diets. I actually interviewed Dr. Esselstyn, who's in his 90s now, not too long ago on the channel. So yeah, there's quite a few people that promote this diet that have used it for different applications, weight loss, diabetes, heart disease. I guess the difference is those folks usually propose versions that are lower in protein than what he's talking about.
Cole was saying you get to eat more food. And he's just hammer sugar. Now, what do I mean by sugar? Sugar in the context of literally straight table sugar is fine. You can throw some table sugar in some water if you want. You can drink some Gatorade. You can drink some pop here and there. How about it, right? Okay,
so he does mean refined carbohydrates at least as well. At least some of the carbohydrates he's saying, no problem. Even soda, junky carbs, junk food is okay. Yeah, that's a first. I've never heard someone promote kind of very ultra processed, ultra refined junk foods. No one on social media, I mean, like a guru, a diet proponent. Yeah, we see that all the time on TV and, commercials, Super Bowl ads. But yeah, for an influencer saying, yeah, this is fine, eat refined processed carbohydrates, that's the first time I've ever seen it. All those guys I mentioned, Ornish, Esselstyn, all those guys are very insistent, very clear that they promote whole carbohydrates, whole foods, unprocessed. So fruits and legumes and whole grains and that kind of thing. Not added sugar. They're very clear. No refined carbohydrates, no junk food, no ultra-processed stuff. I guess it was just a matter of time before somebody on the internet came up with a junk food rich diet and promoted that. I think it's the only thing we were missing, to be honest.
But for myself, what I'm choosing to eat more often is honey, table sugar, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, and so forth. Okay,
so it's a mix. It's some quality carbs and some refined junky carbs.
I just went to the movie theater and ate a bunch of Sour Patch Kids and jelly beans during the movie. sinners. I realize my situation might be unique. People are like, oh, well, you're really lean already. You're really jacked and use performance-enhancing drugs. I'm always forthcoming with that. I always try to give it to you guys straight.
Okay, great example of why anecdotes are so tricky. So he's being really honest about being on steroids, it sounds like. But so that makes it easier to gain muscle and lose fat. So we have to be really careful extrapolating his experience. And this is always the problem with anecdotes. Somebody says, I tried this diet, or I did this thing, or I did this workout, and I got these results. But what else is going on? What's going on in that person's life? We can't assume cause and effect. This is why we run scientific studies, and we have to be careful with anecdotes on the internet.
So you do that all throughout the day, and then in the evening, you have basically one, maybe two-ish meals with a really lean source of protein. I use 99% lean ground turkey. I also use Piedmontese fillets, which are almost no fat. I will also utilize scallops, shrimp, chicken breast, and there's egg whites, right?
Yeah, so it's a high-carb, low-fat diet. A couple differences from the typical high-carb, low-fat that we hear about. His protein content is substantially higher than what most of these proponents suggest. Also, it sounds like most of his protein sources are animal sources. Most of these other guys that I talked about, Esselstyn, Ornish, they're all very plant-centered or even plant-exclusive in some cases. And second, he's slamming all kinds of carbs. Quality carbs, unprocessed carbs, refined carbs, and that's also extremely unusual. All these other proponents are very particular about whole carbs. Now, interestingly, a lot of times when you put people on a high-carb, low-fat diet in trials, we end up seeing this. People oftentimes will start slipping towards the refined carbohydrates and more processed foods because they find it hard. A lot of people do. Some don't. Some people find these diets great and easy to do, but majority of people, very low fat, very high carb, they find it hard to stick to. And so they start slipping towards these more refined carbohydrates. But almost when the diet goes wrong, it's a caveat of the diet. Whereas here he's basically saying, no, go do that by design. So that's a first for me.
I'm just going to throw it out there. A couple other things that I eat. I eat oranges, apples, a sorbet. I really love sorbet. So again, if I have cravings in the evening, I'll have that. It might not be the best option, but I'm still losing weight doing that. And that's ultimately what matters.
Yeah, this is the feeling I was getting from him talking, but I fundamentally disagree with that. There's a lot more to health than losing weight. It's a factor, don't get me wrong. Getting to ideal body weight, losing excess adiposity, very important. It's just a mistake to think that that's ultimately all that matters. There's a lot more aspects of health. You can lose weight and at the same time be developing chronic diseases, cancer, heart disease, all kinds of other stuff. We see this with a lot of different diets. Sometimes people go on more kind of meme versions of low carb, full of bacons and lards and things like that. And as long as they're losing weight, they think, oh no, nothing bad can happen to me. That's not true. Same with high carb, low fat diets. Losing weight and looking fit and having shredded abs is not all of health. You can have all kinds of health issues and look fit on the outside. We have to learn this lesson. Overall, the feeling I get is he comes across as a very genuine, very well-intentioned guy. I get the feeling that he's the kind of person that jumps from fad to fad. He said he was struggling with his weight, then he went on keto, then he went on meat diets. Now he's on a high-carb, low-fat diets with candy and soda. And so I get the feeling that he jumps from fad to fad, but he hasn't really grasped the fundamentals of what makes a healthy diet. I know that people struggle with their weight so much that when they finally find something where they can lose weight, that's all they care about. But the truth is, this is the problem with jumping from fad to fad, is we never learn what's an actual healthy diet that reduces risk of disease long term. If you want to eat a high carb, low fat diet, that can probably be put together in a healthy way. My recommendation is to focus on whole carbohydrates, quality carbohydrates. So fruits and vegetables, whole grains, legumes. Legumes like beans and lentils are great sources of carbs, great source of protein as well. And leave the Sour Patch Kids and the soda for a once in a while treat. Yeah, we want to look good on the outside, but also on the inside. Come on. Here's my full interview with Dr. Esselstyn, arguably the most famous proponent of high carb, low fat diets. And here's a lot more on carb quality and food quality and how to put together a healthy diet, whatever your preference is as far as macros. Check those out. I'll see you in there. Bye-bye.